Hey YouTube. So yesterday Chelsea did this great vlog with a lot of advice for people who were thinking about going into the film industry. A lot of you responded really positively to it, and I can see why. She gave a lot of sincere, really good advice that was both useful and understanding. So I figured I'd try my hand at giving some advice too. I realize that a lot of my vlogs are kind of rants about things I don't like or things I have problems with, so why not try to be more positive and give you advice on something that I feel I know a decent amount about: relationships. I mean, the reason I feel qualified to talk about relationships is because I'm in such a good one right now. I know that from the outside, it looks like Chelsea and I have the perfect relationship, and that's because we do. It's really great, and there's no words I can use to express how lucky I feel to be with her. She's my best friend, and this kind of relationship doesn't come up that often in life, in anyone's life. And I recognize that, and I just wanted to share how we function with you. Maybe what we do could apply to your relationship and help it, or just confirm if you already know that you have a really strong relationship. So, what is my relationship advice? I'd say that the number one thing is to be honest with one another. Mostly that means not lying, because the person who you're with should be someone who you can confide in. But honesty means a whole lot more than just not lying. It also means not lying by omission. It means being honest about your feelings. Having complete honesty with one another means talking about problems that you have. When they do something that upsets you, you have to be honest with them and tell them that you're upset. Pretending that everything is all right when it isn't is a form of dishonesty. It's withholding facts from your significant other that could otherwise lead them to adjust their behavior, which could make things a whole lot better for both of you. I mean, I'm not going to go into really obvious things like don't cheat on them, like don't cheat on your significant other. Because if you're doing that, why are you even with someone in the first place? You want two things that can't coexist, and instead of choosing, you just are dishonest. If your partner asks you what's wrong and something is, be open with them. Tell them. Don't just brush it under the rug. That's just going to build resentment in both of you and weaken the relationship. On the flip side of honesty is trust. If you're being completely honest with your partner, you have to trust that they're doing the same with you. When they tell you something, you have to take it at face value. If for whatever reason you have insecurities, again, be honest with them about it. Tell them why you're having a hard time believing them, or tell them why you think they may not be being completely honest with you. Maybe they don't even realize what they're doing, and by you explaining how you feel with them, it'll open them up to more self-understanding. Another thing that's really important, and I don't think is said enough in advice about relationships, is never be mean. Like, it's so easy, and so many people do it. When they get into an argument, they say something to cut the other person down. I'm not saying never disagree. That's impossible. That's unrealistic. But when you have a disagreement or an argument, don't say something that you know will hurt the other person's feeling just to gain a momentary advantage in the argument. That kind of thing sticks with people. When someone that they love tells them something that hurts them deep, that plays on their insecurities or their fears. Instead, when you're having a disagreement, just explain your side and listen to the other person's side. And if you still disagree, leave it at that. Agree to disagree. Don't get personal or petty. This person should be your friend, not your enemy. It's important to try to keep the other person's perspective in your mind. If something upsets you, makes you sad or mad, instead of immediately pouncing on that emotion and responding just with your intuition, take a second to think about where the other person is coming from. I'll give a personal example here. Because of the vastly different schedules that Chelsea and I have, I sometimes find myself doing more of the housework. Sometimes I'll get done editing all day and come downstairs and find dirty dishes or food out or something, and in that moment I might get upset and think to myself, why do I have to clean this again? I just did it. But then all I have to do is stop for a second and think about all the ways that Chelsea does stuff for me without ever asking for anything in return. She works a whole lot more than me, and she lets me use her car whenever she's not using it, and that is huge because I don't know if you've seen in a previous blog, my car sucks. So if I have to wash a couple of extra dishes, what's the big deal? Relationships don't have to be equal down the middle with everything. You don't have to wipe the same amount of counters. You don't have to spend the exact same amount of money. Every relationship should be tailored to those individuals' needs and desires. If one person can't stand cleaning the kitchen and the other can't stand cleaning the bathroom, you trade off. You find compromises that are fair to you two, and don't let other people tell you how your relationship should be. Honestly, the biggest thing I can say is you have to communicate with each other. And this goes back to being honest and trusting each other, but you just have to be able to talk to each other. And Chelsea and I have always been able to do that. When we first started dating, it was when she moved out here and I was still in Michigan. We did long distance for 4 months, during which time we never once got to visit each other in person. All we had was FaceTime and phone calls. And while that's great that we live in a time when you can communicate through video with the other person, it makes it hard when you can't reach out and touch them. It was really, really difficult on us. But never once did we suspect the other of being unfaithful. Never once did we lie about times that we were upset. We always were able to talk to each other. And through that, we never had any long-standing arguments that would have dissolved that very fragile relationship. And at the end of those 4 months, Chelsea flew back to Michigan, and that night that I got to see her, it was like meeting a celebrity. Being able to hold her and kiss her in person after so long of just words and looks. It was definitely one of the happiest moments of my life. I love her now more than I've ever loved her, and it's so comforting to know that at the end of every day, no matter how stressful it is or how hard I am on myself in my personal endeavors, I know that I have my best friend and girlfriend waiting for me, that I can come home to her and hear her laugh and feel her comfort. There's nothing better than that. And if you have that in your life, just make sure that you don't take it for granted, because that's the last important part of being in a relationship that I'll talk about. Never take your significant other for granted. It doesn't matter how long you've been with them. You can't just take it as a given that you've found this wonderful person to spend your life with. You have to remember that and relish it and appreciate it every day, because that'll keep you treating them as special as they are. To anyone in a relationship, I hope that you're happy. To anyone who's not in one and wants one, I hope that you find it. And to anyone who's not in one and is happy, I'm glad you have what you want also. Because life isn't about following some instruction manual. It's not about doing what other people tell you to do to find happiness. It's about finding your own path and making mistakes and hopefully learning something in the end. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope that you're happy, because I'm happy.